Hey you, welcome back to the Unseen Wisdom. Ever feel like you're just drowning in news headlines and it's almost impossible to figure out what's really going on?
Yeah, we get it. It's overwhelming.
Exactly. So that's what we do here. And hey, if you're watching, please hit that like button, maybe drop a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps us out.
It does. And for everyone listening, our goal is simple. Take those confusing stories, those events that make you pause, and really dig into them.
We sift through the reports, connect the dots, try to pull out the key insights for you. Think of it as getting straight to the point.
Today, we're looking at something truly disturbing, a really perplexing case out of South Africa.
We are. It's about the discovery of 5 bodies near the Henops River in Centurion and how that connects back to 3 police officers who went missing.
Right. These officers, Constable Gemmer Moy, Constable Weezy Senor, and Constable Kakuno Linda, they disappeared. They were traveling from Bloemfontein up towards Limpopo for a deployment.
And their disappearance, it kicked off this huge search operation. But finding those bodies, well, it seems to have raised even more questions than answers, hasn't it?
Absolutely. The last time anyone knew where they were, it was near the Casimia Toll Plaza on the N1 highway, heading north. Then, just nothing. Their vehicle tracker went silent, phones off, complete radio silence.
So for this deep dive, we've gone through reports from SABC News, Newsroom Africa, ENCA, Eyewitness News, looking at transcripts, news articles, trying to piece it all together.
And our mission, really, is to tackle those big questions looming over this whole thing. Why these officers? Were they targeted? Did they know something, perhaps, that put them in danger?
Yeah, based purely on what the news reports have told us so far. We'll walk through the timeline, what was found, what's still missing.
And hopefully uncover some, details that might make you go, aha, or at least give a clearer picture of the uncertainties.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. The disappearance itself. It happened on a Wednesday.
That's right. And that last confirmed sighting of their car, the white VW Polo, was near the Casimia Toll Plaza, heading north on the N1.
And police later found camera footage, right, pinpointing the Braakfontein interchange as the sort of last electronic sighting of the vehicle.
Correct. Braakfontein interchange. So you have these 2 points on the N1, and after that, gone. Silence.
It's worth pausing on the officers themselves. They were young.
Very young. Constable Moy, 30. Constable Senor, just 20 years old. And Constable Linda, 24.
And their postings. 2 were from London Crime Intelligence and 1 from Park Road Police Station.
That crime intelligence link.
Yeah.
It does make you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially considering their destination.
Right. Their mission was for a deployment in Limpopo, part of something called Operation Valami.
Yes, Operation Valami. The reports link that to tackling illegal mining activities, which are a huge issue in Limpopo.
And the circumstances of their travel. One was apparently coming back after celebrating a birthday, and another officer who was actually on leave.
Yeah, was accompanying them anyway, just traveling with colleagues.
It paints a picture of, camaraderie. Going along, even when off duty.
It does. And the police response, from the moment they were reported missing, was significant.
How so?
Well, it was immediately flagged as high priority. Detectives, crime intelligence units were brought in straight away. They set up a 24-hour operational center.
Okay.
And the search wasn't just local. It spanned multiple provinces. The Free State where they started, Gauteng where they likely vanished, and Limpopo their destination.
That level of mobilization, it shows how seriously they took this from the very start.
Definitely. And the initial thinking, the early theories mentioned in the reports, they centered on possible hijacking, maybe kidnapping.
Which makes sense given they just dropped off the map like that. You can only imagine the anxiety, the fear, not just for the families, obviously, but within the force itself.
Oh, absolutely. And the families were deeply involved from day one. Reports mentioned prayer sessions being held.
Heartbreaking pleas for them to come home safe.
Exactly. And they traveled to Pretoria, the families did, to be closer to the investigation, ready for any news, including the possibility of identifying remains.
And there was a reward offered, wasn't there?
Yes, a substantial one. 350,000 rand for information leading to their whereabouts. The National Commissioner also made a point of publicly stating there had been no ransom demands made.
So, intense search, desperate families, theories swirling. But then, after nearly a week, the news shifts to the Henops River.
Yeah, after 6 days of searching, the first reports started coming in about bodies being found there in the Centurion. Initially, it was unclear if they were connected to the missing officers.
It wasn't immediately obvious.
No, and then the situation got even more confusing, really.
Yeah.
The initial reports mentioned 3 bodies, 2 males, 1 female.
Okay.
But that number was quickly updated. A total of 5 bodies were eventually recovered from the river. Another female body was found.
5. So not just the 3 missing officers.
Correct. Which immediately signals that this is, well, potentially more complex than just the officer's disappearance.
And then came the confirmation everyone dreaded.
Yes. The National Police Commissioner confirmed it. 3 of those 5 bodies were, tragically, the missing constables. Linda, Bass, and Senor.
Just awful. All hope for their safe return just gone.
And it didn't end there. Another body was identified too, a SAPS employee, described as an administration clerk, or maybe a gardener, from the Littleton Police Station.
Also SAPS, but not one of the missing 3.
Right. He had apparently been reported missing over the weekend prior, so a separate missing persons case. The 5th body, at the time of these initial reports, remained unidentified.
So you have these 2 possibly unrelated disappearances converging at this one location, the Henops River. That's strange.
It is. And the scenes described at the riverbank, reporters mentioned families arriving completely distraught. The deputy police minister was there comforting them.
Having to go through the process of identifying loved ones at the mortuary, I can't even begin to imagine that pain.
No. Just unimaginable grief. Relief at finding them, maybe, but overshadowed by the awful reality.
So they found the officers and 2 other individuals. But you mentioned unanswered questions earlier. What's still missing from this picture?
Well, the biggest piece, arguably, is the car. That white VW Polo they were traveling in still hasn't been found.
Still, despite all that searching, air units, ground units.
Still missing. They did find fragments, though. Pieces believed to be from the Polo found near a bridge over the river.
Fragments, but not the whole car. That's odd. Where could it be?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the location of the bodies themselves is interesting, too.
How so?
They weren't all found together. Reports say they were discovered along the river, but spread out. Some distance between them. Maybe up to 600 meters.
Could that just be the river current carrying them downstream at different rates? Or does it suggest something else?
It's hard to say just from the reports. Currents could do it, sure, but it raises questions. And the cause of death wasn't immediately clear either.
What did the police say initially?
They opened a culpable homicide case, which suggests, unlawful killing, but perhaps without premeditation, like manslaughter. But they were careful to say they weren't ruling anything out if other evidence emerged.
Okay, so keeping options open pending the postmortems.
Exactly. The autopsies would be crucial.
And what about the other vehicle? The one linked to the SAPS admin clerk?
Right. The Renault Kangoo panel van.
Yeah.
That was found along the riverbank, actually. And the body of the missing employee was inside it.
Inside the van?
Yes. His wife had reported him missing. Apparently, his vehicle tracker last showed the van near their home before he disappeared.
So one vehicle found with the body inside, another vehicle completely missing, but fragments found near a bridge. It's quite a scene.
It is. And add to that, reports of a damaged barrier on the N1 highway near where those vehicle fragments were supposedly found.
Ah, okay. So that potentially feeds into the accident theory, right? A car possibly going off the road.
It certainly points that way. If you connect the damaged barrier, the fragments near the river, the last known location on the N1, it starts to sketch out a possible accident scenario.
But then you have the officers' roles. Crime intelligence. Operation Valami.
Precisely. So, while an accident was definitely being considered by police early on, the nature of their work inevitably raised the question, was this targeted?
Especially with 2 of them in CI looking into illegal mining. That's dangerous territory.
They're very dangerous. But again, it's crucial to stress, based on the news reports we have, the police hadn't confirmed any work-related motive at that stage. It was a concern, a possibility they were surely investigating, but not confirmed.
Okay, so parallel possibilities being explored.
Seems like it. And the search effort itself tells a story.
The scale of it, you mean?
Yeah, the resources thrown at it. Air wing, police divers, canine units, detectives from multiple units, crime intelligence personnel, even private security firms, traffic police, drones.
A massive operation.
Huge. It underscores how seriously they were taking the disappearance of their own officers.
But some experts looking at this afterwards raised concern.
They did, particularly about the time it took those 6 days to actually locate the bodies, given that the vehicle and phones went offline.
What was the criticism?
Questions about the effectiveness of the systems, police systems, tracking systems, digitalization. Should they have been able to pinpoint the location faster?
That's a fair question, I suppose, especially with modern tech.
Yeah. And there was also broader discussion, mentioned in some reports, about just the general environment, the brazenness of criminals, potential resource gaps, or maybe training issues within the police force itself.
The fact that officers could vanish like this, and it takes almost a week to find them, even deceased, it does make you pause.
It absolutely does. It points to potential vulnerabilities, doesn't it? Things that need addressing, perhaps.
Which brings us right back to that central mystery, the question you posed at the start, and the one I bet you, our listener, are thinking about. Why?
Yeah.
Why them? Were they targeted?
Did they know something? That's the core of it.
Given their work, especially the two from crime intelligence investigating illegal mining, it's hard not to consider a targeted attack, isn't it?
It's a very strong possibility, and likely a primary line of inquiry for the investigators. The risks involved in that kind of work are significant. But we have to stick to what the reports confirmed, and they didn't confirm that motive.
Right. No official confirmation of targeting based on their job, at least not in these initial reports we've looked at.
So you have that strong suspicion on one hand.
And on the other, you have the accident theory.
Exactly. The damaged barrier, the vehicle fragments near the river, the location where the bodies were found.
Yeah.
All of those elements point towards a tragic accident. A vehicle leaving the road, entering the water.
It's entirely possible it was just a horrific accident. The car goes into the river, hidden from view, and the officers are swept away.
It is. And if that's the case, it's a terrible tragedy, highlighting just how quickly things can go wrong on the road.
So where does that leave us, based on the news reports?
It leaves us with uncertainty, really. Strong indicators pointing in two very different directions.
An accident or a deliberate attack.
And the investigation was clearly ongoing. Finding the missing VW Polo is obviously key. The postmortem results would hopefully shed light on the cause of death. But based purely on the news available at the time of these reports, definitive answers weren't there.
It really highlights how initial news, while crucial for getting information out, often presents an incomplete picture, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Investigations take time. Evidence needs to be gathered and analyzed carefully before conclusions can be drawn.
So just to recap the main points for everyone, we had 3 police officers disappear while traveling for deployment.
After a massive 6-day search, their bodies were tragically found in the Henops River, along with 2 other individuals.
One of whom was also a SAPS employee, missing separately. The 5th person initially unidentified.
Crucially, the officer's vehicle, the VW Polo, remains missing, though fragments were found.
And the cause of death is under investigation, with initial reports suggesting police were considering both a culpable homicide scenario, possibly linked to an accident, and keeping open the possibility of something more sinister, like a targeted attack, given the officers' roles.
Right, but no confirmation on motive from official sources in these reports.
Which brings us back full circle to those questions. Why were they targeted? Did they know something?
And the available news reports, honestly, they provide clues and possibilities, but not the final answers. There's this space left for the investigation, for more information to emerge.
It's unsettling, that lack of closure.
It is. And beyond the facts and the investigation, you can't forget the human element here.
Absolutely. The sheer tragedy for the families. Losing loved ones so suddenly, so violently, perhaps.
It's a huge loss for the police service, too, losing 3 young officers. And it sends ripples of concern through the wider community about safety, about the risks faced by law enforcement.
It really does. It's the kind of event that shakes your sense of security.
So, maybe a final thought for you, listening or watching. This case presents these 2 stark possibilities: a targeted attack fueled by their work, or a random tragic accident. What does the ambiguity itself, the fact that both seem plausible based on initial information, tell us about the environment these officers were operating in?
That's a heavy question. What does it reveal about the challenges, the dangers faced by police, particularly those tackling serious organized crime like illegal mining? And maybe what does it say about the need for answers, for transparency when things like this happen?
Exactly. Lots to think about there, even without having all the answers yet.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive on the unseen wisdom. It's a complex and evolving story.
Definitely. We encourage you to follow updates from reputable news sources as the investigation progresses.
Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.